And that is where we start our discussion on people and politics. My usual panel is with me, Dr. Miguna Miguna, lawyer, and of course Mithika Linturi, Senator Meru, and Kimani Wamatangi, Senator Kiambu, and the Ombudsman Emeritus, Dr. Otiende Amollo, Member of Parliament, Rarieda. Thanks for making time for us. And Dr. Miguna, I'll start with you, just for full disclosure. We also saw you migrating from Safaricom to Airtel. Have you decided to peel back the frosty relations with the former Prime Minister, and are you now officially part of NASA?
I don't like the language, Trevor. The question is convoluted and vague. I am a general in the NRM, the National Resistance Movement.
So you're part of NASA now?
I am part of, yes,
okay,
officially.
All right.
And I'm resisting the subversion of the Constitution, the rule of law, okay, democracy, and the attempt to reinstall despotism in Kenya. This boycott is nothing but just the first of many, many activities that you will see until we remove this despotic regime from its illegal occupation of public office without an election. The Constitution is very clear. You can only be president and deputy president after a constitutionally and legally conducted election. And the exercises we had on August 8th and October 26th were not valid elections as known by law. The Supreme Court found so, ordered that a repeat election be done pursuant to the law. The exercise was just a coronation event that did not meet the standards that were set by the Supreme Court. And Safaricom was implicated in the subversion of the will of the people. And so I stand firmly with NASA in opposing it. And I migrated from Safaricom to Airtel. Unfortunately, I ported and my line has not come up. So that is something Airtel must deal with in terms of its capacity. But yes, for full disclosure, firmly opposing this cascading dictatorship.
The illegal occupation or not will be determined by the Supreme Court. But does it bother you when the Safaricom dealers say that there's a million job losses on the line?
I think that is false and an egregious exaggeration of a situation that is quite simple. Airtel is a Kenyan company just like Safaricom, and we have a free market. I can choose to subscribe to Safaricom or Airtel. If I choose to migrate from Safaricom to Airtel, there is nothing illegal or improper about it. And when I migrate, or millions of us migrate from Safaricom to Airtel, we create jobs in Airtel. So there is no job lost. The jobs that are purported to have been lost in Safaricom are now created in Airtel. So Safaricom has lost because of its misconduct as far as we are concerned, and Airtel is gained because it did not partake in the misconduct. It's as simple as that.
Senator Mithika, what do you make of the boycott?
I find, Trevor, this boycott quite hypocritical because, yes, and I think I must thank Miguna for openly admitting that it's in general in the NRM. You know, last week I had a problem trying to explain that it's one of the senior commanders, and he was completely against that statement. But because of his admission this morning, I thank him for being open and truthful. And let me say why I find this boycott quite hypocritical. It's because, you know, I know of very many senior NASA leaders, and I honestly tried to reach out to some of them yesterday, and an evening with some senior members last evening, and to my surprise, these people were on their Safaricom lines. And in fact, that was a point of discussion. I asked them, now, gentlemen, let's be honest with one another. You guys are telling your people boycott Safaricom. And And why are you in Safaricom? Why are you this aspect of double speak? So, you know, they told me, you know, we are saying this because, you know, there is this habit of our voters trying to call us every one time, assist us with 1,000 or 2 or 3 for this and that. And they say they are very firm on this, saying that because they are now telling their voters and the other constituents or supporters, kindly, you know, we have migrated from Safaricom, and for that matter, you know, M-Pesa is not possible. So to me, I think it's political, and that is expected. That is expected from the NASA supporters. They are within their rights, and I will kindly urge them to continue with their boycott as long as they are doing it peacefully. Yes. Our problem is the exercise of that right in a peaceful environment, where even you do it, as you do it, you don't really infringe on the rights of the others. Then I would also, the one question I would want to pose to them, because my understanding in terms of this boycott is that they are doing it because they feel these companies are owned by people that are perceived to have been in support of Jubilee. And Miguna is saying the jobs have already been created in Safaricom. I want to ask them, assuming tomorrow, because the network in Safaricom and the infrastructure cannot really match Safaricom. Assuming tomorrow Safaricom decides to buy Airtel, what will happen? Number two, the other things that are quite personal. We have relationships cutting across. So would you divorce your wife tomorrow because it's from Gatundu or Nyeri or any other area, or you still on boycott our services because it comes from that particular area, Miguna?
You want me to answer?
Now that's a direct question. Before I go to Wamatangi, yes, go ahead. Very briefly.
We are not boycotting Safaricom because of ownership. And I think that Senator Linturi is not just being mischievous, is just being, is spreading falsehood. Safaricom is a publicly listed company. Anybody can buy shares in Safaricom. So is Airtel. And there's been no production of a list of owners. There are NASA supporters who are actually shareholders of Safaricom. They are voting with their feet because of a decision that was made at the executive board of Safaricom to support Jubilee in rigging. This is not about where people are from. David Ndii is a Kikuyu, but he's a chief strategist in NASA. The person who petitioned last night, Njonjo Mue, is from Central Province, but he petitioned against Uhuru Kenyatta's illegal coronation. So trying to cheapen this will not help Jubilee. And last week, I did not run away from my position as NRM. In fact, I said I was going to be a general. That's what I said. But it was the, again, false caricature of NRM as something that it is not. And let me remind you, Trevor, before you move. One of the most successful boycott programs and campaigns in the history of modern world was the boycott of apartheid South Africa, economic boycott by the entire world. Now, Great Britain, Germany, the rest of the EU, North America, all the world boycotted products from South Africa in order to change the regime that was brutally against Africans, a minority white regime. So when we are doing this boycott, it's a traveled path. There is nothing new in this exercise, nor novel. We are doing something that has been done historically to bring rogue regimes to account. And we are going to bring this one to account.
Wamatangi, what do you make of the boycott?
Well, thank you, and good morning, Trevor. Good morning. Let me also take the opportunity to say good morning to our viewers. It's important. You know, we have this habit of jumping on air and starting to pump all manner of opinions and ideas to our viewers. Without first telling them that we are happy that they find the time to follow what we say. And more so to say that we are here so that the country can also get alternative view of different issues which are in public domain. And so is this one that you brought about, you know, the migration, but by some, our group of Kenyans. First, I would want to actually follow up on what my colleague Mithika, Senator Mithika was saying here, because I watched a clip yesterday that was running on social media, and the guy who made the clip, that's Mutahi Ngunyi, was saying that when this migration story started, he ran a small test by sending 2 shillings, you know, to the pay bill account that had been opened by NASA. And the message that came back was, we are very grateful from Safaricom for receiving your 2 shillings contribution to our NASA, you know, campaign, and so on. And so part of it really is just public posturing, if I would call it that way, because that's what it is. Yeah. And let me also say to the new General Miguna that, well, it's interesting to hear that, and I also saw part of what was aired when he was being also coronated to be a general. And you know, my curiosity is when you get you know, decorated with those big titles without the benefit of training to be a general, then what do you become? And I'm hoping Miguna is not misinterpreting this generalship to go and start slapping his children in the house all over, and his wife, you know, as a general, because, you know, they have to define what this generalship is all about. Now, on this migration story, I would comment on it. My friend Trevor, from a businessman's point of view, yeah, because I think really, as we all know, Safaricom is a business. It's been a stable company that has been here for quite a while. If indeed we remember the short history, Safaricom has been the company that has recorded the most stable growth, probably the highest profits in terms of trading, and also probably the most robust expansion and investment in the infrastructure of the company. And so first, before you take on it, or as they take on it, what one would want to ask themselves is who is Safaricom? And what is probably the net impact of the actions which are being taken right now, given the spontaneity of it and probably the miscalculation, if I would call it. One, I would say as a businessman, if I was, and I run business myself, yeah. If this was happening to my company, I would deal with it the way you deal with any other external factors that may occur to affect your business. And I can assure you, if probably this is intended, or the thinking within the NASA team is that this would bring down Safaricom, it's a very long shot. It's a very long shot. You know, Trevor, the reasons why people choose to do business with a company or to be customers in a company are so varied. They're so wide. And the last consideration a customer makes before choosing a company to be a patron in or to patronize is political persuasion. That is probably the last of the options one would consider. Okay. If you look at what Safaricom has got to offer in the marketplace, ask yourself, why has it grown to the extent that it grew? And Airtel was always there. There was no politics. None of all those people who are saying now, I migrate from Safaricom, told those people go to Safaricom. So the factors, the real reasons why people chose to be customers in a big way in Safaricom are because of all the other factors. I mean, I don't want to start a business class here, okay. But we all know, you know, the efficiency of their M-Pesa, their savings, Mshwari, and all those things. Okay. Those are the things that attract a customer. Probably their second billing and all those things. At the time when they came into the marketplace, their customer base, and I believe in any competitive field, especially in business, those are the things that sell. Those are the things that market you as a company. Okay. Politics would probably come in last. Yes, I would acknowledge what Miguna is saying about the lessons learned from apartheid and the embargo that ensued. But there is absolutely no parallels along which to consider what happened in South Africa and the Safaricom case. Okay. I would say to Safaricom, I mean, sit down in your board, just look at the unfolding scenario, make decisions right now, yourselves as a company, and do what you have to do. Businesses sometimes suffer this kind of political intrusion, but the best always survives, and business survives not because of those kind of political moves. They may dent a little bit of the company, but I can tell you in the long haul, all those customers are going to go running back to Safaricom to get good service.
All right. Yeah. Dr. Otiende, is this meant to bring down Safaricom? And I've also seen on social media many people asking, what does Brookside and Bidco have to do with the electoral injustice?
Thank you, Trevor. Let me also wish Kenyans a good morning. The approach in terms of boycott by Senator Linturi and Senator Wamatangi is interesting. Linturi says it's political, it's hypocritical, he's happy it's peaceful. All those are very interesting statements. Of course it is political. A call for boycott by a political party has to be political. I mean, what else can it be? And to say it is hypocritical because you try to reach one member or so and you're still able to reach them, I think misses the point completely. And when Senator Wamatangi says, if it is meant to bring down Safaricom, it won't succeed, they completely miss the point. First of all, a boycott is a political statement. The issue is, why is that statement being made? And I'll come back to that subject shortly. The fact that Safaricom does not succeed in crumbling because it does not succeed, the boycott does not succeed in bringing it down, misses the point completely. When in the same vein, you can see, and the papers have reported, that very many dealers of Safaricom are already crying foul that their business is crumbling, it means it is succeeding. You do not have to bring the edifice of Safaricom down. But if you succeed in sufficiently affecting its business, then you are making the point. And the point is this: we cannot be in a country where electoral justice is subverted continuously in this context by the Jubilee administration, and you have some big businesses that are supporting it, either in terms of political association, in terms of financial contribution, or in terms of operations that Safaricom did. The problem with Safaricom, and why it must be listed here, and I think we've covered this before, is that in the last election that was clearly examined, it was given a contractual role. It did not do that role. It was alive and it was aware that the Jubilee administration and those who are, interfering with the elections were doing so, and they could see it. They refused to disclose this to Kenyans. They wanted, after the Supreme Court made the decision, to quietly reach out to NASA and the NASA presidential candidate and explain. And indeed, they reached out. Bob Collymore reached out and explained to us that the problem is that they were contracted to transmit by VPN the results to a server. They did that, and those results terminated in a server in Spain. They never found their way back to the servers in Kenya of IBC, but they chose that their role was only to transmit to the server. They did not think they had a role to Kenyans to disclose that what we transmitted abroad never found its way back. Okay. And they only wanted to say that privately to Raila. That is wrong. Now, the others...
So you admitted that in a closed-door meeting?
Of course. Okay. And it's been explained. They also tried to explain it in a paid-up advertisement. They simply said that we did our part, and our part was merely to transmit to the servers. Okay. They did not think they needed to disclose that those results did not find their way back. I mean, that is completely wrong. They did not think that they needed to terminate the Kiambu kits that were stolen, and they could see they were still transmitting results, about 200. They did not think that that was their role. I mean, they were acquiescent in messing up that election. Okay. Bidco is yet another such company. Bidco, through its CEO, are not only major donors to, in this case, the Jubilee administration that is focused on sabotaging electoral processes. They are major donors. They are major players politically, but their quiescence is symbiotic. You may not know that Bidco owes perhaps the highest amount of taxes, unpaid taxes in this country. I can say that for a fact because as ombudsman, I got that complaint. I asked the KRA to explain why they are not collecting. I think right now it's about 5 billion shillings because I think it was 3 or 4 billion. That matter went to court. It's gone to court about 5 times. The court determined that they could not stop KRA from collecting the taxes. For some reason, KRA is not collecting those taxes. Recently, when I went to Parliament, I have looked at the archives of Parliament. I have realized that that issue also arose in Parliament. Jude Jomo brought that matter to Parliament to ask KRA why they were not collecting the taxes. For some reason, again, the Speaker determined that that was not a matter that Parliament could look into. So that matter is hanging there. Bidco is happy because it's not being asked to pay some taxes, and in return, it supports the Jubilee administration to subvert justice. We must bring them to account. Okay. And, you know, Brookside, I think, is also yet another such company. Because of its very close association with the presidency, it has also connived, you know, to deny us that collective electoral justice. So when we say, therefore, that we are going to boycott some of these entities, and it's not just that list, the list will keep growing, it is for a good political cause. Now, boycotts have brought change in this country. Boycotts have brought change in the world. The entire edifice that is the American society was brought about by the Boston Tea Party. It led to the creation of the United States of America. The civil rights movement basically traces its history to the Montgomery bus boycott. When the lady refused to stand merely because she needed to stand because of her color, and they decided they would boycott the buses. Now, you can't say that that boycott did not succeed because although they boycotted the public transport, perhaps on a Sunday for purposes of a funeral, they ended up boarding some one bus to take the, you know, the cottage to the, I mean, that's not how to look at boycott. Okay. You must look at whether the boycott succeeds in terms of the overall picture. I am one of those who have a Safaricom line. I have now acquired an Airtel line, and it's only for transitional purposes. If you reach me on my line today, it's not because I am keeping it. It is because of the transitional purposes. But the fundamental issue, and it is painful, I have had a Safaricom line for 19 years. But when a statement must be made, then you must make it. Whether it means they reach, Airtel does not reach all over Safaricom, whether it means it will affect some people, it must be made because there's a more fundamental statement, electoral justice and justice general. All right. Dr. Miguna?
Yes, I wanted to say this. When the boycotts were announced last week, it was very clear. We said we gave our members and those who supported us up to Friday this week to migrate. That is Safaricom. So when Senator Linturi says that he was with some NASA people yesterday and they had Safaricom lines, that of course falls squarely within what I am saying. They were given until Friday this week. Secondly, Senator Linturi contradicts himself. Yeah. He says on the one hand that his friends, very senior people in NASA, had Safaricom lines, and he was trying to imply that they were hypocritical, and he said so. Then he says at the same time that the reason why they are migrating is so that they don't donate 1,000 shillings, 2,000 shillings to their supporters. So either he's saying they are hypocritical, or he's saying that they are migrating for economic reasons, personal economic reasons. But you can't say both things. The fact of the matter is that there is a boycott, and I can tell you one of the casualties is Bob Collymore. You recall that more than a week ago, there was a news flash that he's gone on sick leave. Yes. I can tell you, and this will be confirmed in due time or due course, that he has been fired. But they are flagging it like, quote unquote, a medical leave. Okay. The fact of the matter is that he's a casualty of the boycott. The big boys and big girls at Safaricom have realized that this man is a liability. Secondly, Senator Wamatangi said that he hopes, first of all, he said he's aware that I am not trained as a general. Well, we don't train in Kiambu that he represents, nor do we train at the headquarters of Jubilee or in Pangani. We train our generals where we train them, and you are not part of the NRM and cannot speak about our training. I'm a 5-star decorated general of the NRM. Now, 3, Senator Wamatangi also says that he hopes that I'm not going to use this opportunity to slap my children and wife. The persons I'm going to slap are this. I'm going to slap Jubilee very firmly, consistently. I'm going to deconstruct and politically slap Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto very perpendicularly until they fall. That you can take to the bank. That slap is coming, and I've started with you here on this panel. Lastly, as Dr. Otiende has said, boycotts have been very successful all over the world. In fact, in today's Standard at page 4, they say financial, I think, whatever, from archives, how the boycott of South African goods shamed Dr. Kiano. Historically, essentially what they are writing in this story is that those who conspired with the South African regime, the apartheid regime, were exposed and shamed. And there were people in this country like Charles Njonjo, Dr. Gikonyo Kiano, and others who were secretly trying to help the apartheid regime. When they were exposed, they were completely morally and politically exposed, and they could not explain why they were siding with the brutal regime in South Africa. Similarly in Kenya, the Jubilee regime, it is not a government because it has not won an election. The Jubilee regime must be exposed, and we are going to expose it consistently. Brookside is owned by the Kenyatta family. Brookside is part and parcel of the regime. And so we are going to target all those entities that are trying to prop up the regime through illegal and unconstitutional means by rigging elections. So these 3 major companies are just but the tip of the iceberg. As time goes by, we are going to announce more companies. But this is not going to be the only activity that NRM is going to be involved in. We are going to be involved in picketing. We are going to be involved in peaceful demonstrations. We are going to be involved in marches. We are going to be involved in many other constitutional, legitimate, political activities that will end up bringing this regime down. And it will be soon.
Senator Mithika.
Trevor, let me, I think, correct Miguna, or probably make him understand clearly what I said about this aspect of M-Pesa and the MPs having Safaricom lines. You know, what I was saying is I was just reporting what the answers were in terms of my question on the boycott of, or why they had the Safaricom lines. And those are the reasons that they give. So that was not my opinion. That's what they said. That they're running away from the pressure of the public in terms of contributions, right? And I think you shouldn't...
That's propaganda.
No, it can't be propaganda because the other thing I asked them, because if we have really to be serious and being reasonable men, people that have been bestowed with the power and authority to discuss national issues in an assembly, and an assembly is where great men of this country come and debate matters that touch on the well-being of this nation. Why aren't you bringing these things on the floor of the House so that we can discuss together and let out this debate from the propagandists, from the very people that think are the only ones that can shape direction, because that business of making policy, creating direction, resolving issues, and even if you look at what the Constitution talks about the general rule of Parliament to resolve issues of the people, right, or that touch on their well-being. Why aren't we bringing these things to the floor so that we can now discuss as leaders that have been elected by the people outside that emotion of having lost an election? Because we must also detach ourselves from those people that have lost an election and get to ourselves to an area where we become reasonable men and discuss these issues. Two, there are issues that are quite fundamental. And why I'm saying let us not be hypocritical about this. Members of Parliament that are from the NASA side.
Yes.
Yesterday when I discussed with them, and honestly, let me tell you, I don't lie. They're asking me, you know, Mheshimiwa, what happens here in this house? When we came, we were taken out for a retreat. And when we were taken out for a retreat, we were told this is what, when you get here, this is what is available for you. You have a car loan, you have a house, and then they're telling me, you know, we signed into these things because that is what we are told. But to our surprise, last week we are told we are paying our salary on Friday. No money has come to the bank. Ask them. I am not aware, but at least me, I received my money. Then my friends, my colleagues, and it's very unfortunate that I've talked it, but I must discuss this to bring it in a context with what I'm talking about. Boycotts. And then these people are complaining now because probably the money might have been taken over for mortgage on the other facilities that are available for Parliament. But when I asked them, now why aren't you and why are you bothered whether money is coming or not, yet you are not rendering any services? You are not coming to deliberate on the matters. You are not coming to work on your roles as representatives of the people. And one of them told me, and very clear, we were told by our people not to come back to our constituencies and stay in Nairobi to defend Baba. Baba is not being fought in Nairobi for God's sake. And if we were to defend Baba, we can only do it effectively in Parliament because we can be able to reason. And even if there are issues that we want to create oppositions of power or issues to do with amendments of Constitution to accommodate everyone, then this can reasonably be discussed and agreed on in the assembly of the representatives of the people. Right. I spoke about the county funds. I spoke about CDF. Our people are suffering. When we are fighting our political wars here, let us not forget there is that mama in Omabi. There is mama in Siaya whose children have to go back to school next year, and the little money that is available to do construction of classes is required to go back there. And governors are suffering. People are not being paid. So, you know, the MPs and the people leading this, you know, have created a lot of world over time. Maybe Miguna may not feel, because probably he has a lot that he amassed during his time, and he has a lot of stock to keep him going. And since he doesn't sleep angry, or Otiende is making so much from his law firm, he forgets that the person that voted for him requires that simple service. However little that transfer fund goes to him is so much and means so much to him, to the extent that we cannot afford to go in there. So I suggest that we have a duty as citizens, including Miguna, right, that we need to tell the country, yes, this has happened. But to move forward, let us give out this responsibility to people that will not think using their emotions and see how to sort our country's problem. Otherwise, permanently being on the streets and fighting is really bringing down our country, and this country requires to be stabilized. We have all a responsibility. It is not Uhuru Kenyatta alone. It is not Raila Odinga alone. I think I have a duty as a Kenyan citizen and as a leader in this country.
Wamatangi, before I take a break, don't you agree with them that if the institutions, there are certain institutions that have failed, they need to be held accountable?
Well, the way to hold institutions to account is by being accountable yourself, right, Trevor? And you know, the first thing I would ask the NASA team is you know, why speak from both ends of the mouth? You know, say this here and say something different. You know, the first thing that they would have done if what they are talking about being accountable, holding companies to account is true, probably when leading their exodus from Safaricom, the first thing they would have done is declare publicly using Safaricom's platform, how much money did they collect in their pay bill? And say, we used your platform, we have collected so many millions or billions, if that's what, and this is where the money is. And that's called being accountable. But you see, they're calling accountability where they themselves are not accountable. But, you know, I want to say quite frankly, Trevor, this morning, that much of these things, you know, I'm avoiding calling it stuff, because it doesn't, you know, but most of these I'm not, I find it very hard to take serious. I mean, you see, like this story about the 5-star general here, really, you know, sometimes when I'm going to the market with my kids and they're sitting in the back of the car, you know, usually hear, that is my car there, that's my car. You know, hear a big argument. Oh, and Daddy, that's also my car, you know, from the young men.
Yeah.
And they're making it sound, you know, like they're just looking at the stars there in the sky and saying, counting that star there is mine, this is my star. And that is how you have a 5-star general, you know, sitting in the panel. But I want to say, if you listen to the companies that they have mentioned here, and it's their business really to count the companies, they're amongst what you would call in business language, you know, Kenya's good to great companies. And those are companies that have had a history of resilience. Mm-hmm. Just like we Kenyans are. And I want to tell my friends, really, like I've said before, I've run a company, I've run companies, I know, and we also have a history as a country. We have seen, for example, let's remember when, for example, like there was serious fluctuation of currency, of dollar. You would wake up today, find the dollar is at 90, tomorrow is at 140, and most companies got affected seriously. I mean, they would lose a lot of business. Remember when the import free market was opened and companies had to have these seismic moments. But there is always a pathway for companies that have trod a long way. Okay. To find their level and to find their coexistence. And what I would want to say to my friends here is really, you know, there are people, you go there in the village, you are members of a board in a primary school, you disagree as men in the boardroom, and then they go to the roadside to wait for your wife from the market to abuse your wife. I mean that is no way to settle issues. Okay. If they have issues political about either their position, their ideology, the pursuit of them being elected in this country from their candidate, the presidential candidate, or any of them who are elected, then they should pursue a political agenda in the political arena. Okay. And if their idea is to get to sell what they stand for to the members of the public, they cannot do so through intimidating innocent traders in this country, thinking that will earn them either votes or political sympathy. Okay. What they should do, what they need to do, is go back to their drawing board as politicians if they really mean what they are talking about. And they can recalibrate, go to the public domain, talk about what NASA is about, get better policies, come to the competitive arena. We will compete with them as politicians, and we will settle our scores politically as politicians. Okay. And such that, and when I mean settle our scores, is they will take their ideology to the people. Okay. And if they are true to what they say they stand for, they will be magnanimous enough to say when we lose an election, we are ready to wait the next 5 years and come back to the arena and fight again. Right. But you see, this continued song about every time when we lose this election, it was unfair. And let me finalize by saying this. I see you raising your finger because we want to take a break. But let's finalize this way. Because, you see, it is this same gentleman and Otiende Amollo, my good friend, led the team that went to the Supreme Court. And they went there to find their justice. They found their justice. We found it at that time unfair. We settled for it and went ahead. After they found that justice, they have now taken a detour because of other reasons. Okay. Knowing for sure that in the political arena they would not have been able to win. That is why you find all these side shows. I want to tell them that they must remember that we are all Kenyans, all playing in different arenas. We have our business people, we have our teachers, we have our nurses, we have our politicians. They should not go groping around to damage everything and everyone around them because they don't want to fall alone.
Okay.
Politically, they have fallen because they lost the elections. They can live to fight another day if they can reorganize themselves and know that they should be playing in the political arena. But
Okay.
if they're not men enough, to sustain their battle in the political arena, the better thing is to quit.
Okay. Well, thank you for staying with AM Live. My guests are still with me, Senator Kimani Wamatangi, Kiambu, Dr. Miguna Miguna, lawyer, and with Senator Mithika Linturi, Meru, and Dr. Otiende Amollo, Member of Parliament, Rarieda. This is People and Politics. We're talking about NASA's move to boycott several companies, and in a moment we'll be talking about the presidential petition that has been filed at the Supreme Court. Dr. Otiende, you had a burning response about the boycott.
Well, just a quick response. I think if there was any doubt that the boycott is succeeding, you only need to listen to the lamentations of Kimani Wamatangi and Mithika Linturi, and you know it is biting. Because that is the intention. The intention that it must bite. And what we must avoid is what they eventually both say. Mithika Linturi says, let us move forward. Kimani Wamatangi says, let us address this in the legitimate institutions and try your luck after another 5 years. Basically what they're saying, and that is what a number of people are trying to say out there, those who acquiesce in electoral injustice, that let the process go on. Once we have our person as the president, then let us use whatever method we can to bring normalcy. Let us wait another 5 years and then repeat the charade. I keep saying that is what we cannot accept. That is what we must avoid. You cannot appeal to the emotions of people by misrepresentation of the fact, as Mithika Linturi is trying to do. That let us think of the Mamamboga, let us think of CDF, the members of parliament are feeling good. I think we all know that Jubilee claims to have the supermajority in both houses. In fact, the president says he does not need NASA to pass any law. And we've seen that. So if they wanted to pass any law on CDF or anything to help Mamamboga, they would do it. They don't need us. So they don't need to start appealing to emotions by pretending that let the NASA MPs come so that the parliament can work. It's on record. They do what they want. They passed amendments, which we told them were illegal, and I told them in this show. They took it to the president, who says he now consulted and he thought he should not sign it. For the very reasons we said and ignored it then. Then he lies to the country. And I think it's particularly painful. I said this last week. I said in this show that the president is misleading the country because the laws will come into force automatically, and they had come into force by then. My two friends here were arguing with me. I'm sure today they will accept that I was right, and it has come to pass, that the president misled the country by trying to say he did not want the laws to come into force, that's why he was not assenting, yet he knew that the laws had come to force automatically anyway. But coming back to my point, you cannot do what Jubilee is doing. It has developed an executive of impunity. It has eroded completely the independence of parliament. And I challenge my friends here. Even before we were sworn in, all the elected senators and MPs were called to State House. They were directed by the president and told, you will do what we want as executive, and if you dare, walk out. I dare them. They will admit to you. They were directed, you will elect Muturi Justin as a speaker. You will elect Lusaka as a speaker. And they did that. So there is no independence in parliament that you can talk of. So when you say, why don't you bring a matter to parliament so that we can discuss? Parliament has become a Jubilee parliamentary group. It is not an independent institution contemplated by the Constitution. So to take a matter there is a waste of time, because they'll be called to State House and instructed what to do, and then you come and you will be speaking to a stone. Okay. And so you must go back to the original power, and that is Article 1. Besides, you must remember that with these majorities in both the Senate and the National Assembly, I am persuaded that they will be inverted, because a lot of my colleagues there used this very same method that was used in the invalidated presidential elections. And when that happens, that will change. Secondly, it is quite possible that even as we are sitting in parliament, it must be remembered that there's a question of the illegitimacy of parliament on account of not meeting the 2/3 gender threshold. And the High Court already declared that if that remains, and it remains so far, then parliament is likely to be dissolved.
Okay.
We in parliament, and I must answer now Mithika Linturi directly, I don't earn from my law firm. You know that as state officers, we don't. I may have made some money in the law firm, but I chose to serve the people. Now, it cannot be that you come to parliament because of benefits. There are really no benefits in parliament. And Mithika Linturi, I am surprised, and I would want to know who spoke to you that they are complaining about benefits. What one gets in parliament is a pittance in terms of what you spend, and you know that. Yeah. And it cannot be that anybody starts complaining because of house benefits, because of a limit of 20 million, which is a loan, and you must pay it within 5 years. Because of a car loan of 7 million, and you must pay it within 5 years. In fact, most of us don't even take it, because once you take it, then you become a slave. You don't even earn 1 shilling. But I think what is more important is the principle around it. And the principle is, if you do what Jubilee has done, you kill independent institutions, you erode the independence of parliament, you deny independent commissions their independence, then you cannot expect that they'll play their role as independent mediators. Yeah. Then you must understand and accept when people then go back to the original power, the power of the people. But let me comment a bit, I think, on the Supreme Court.
No, we'll get to the Supreme Court in just a bit. But since it's a direct allegations towards Mithika, I'll come to you. Yes, I'll come to you, Dr. Miguna. Yeah. But this Mithika was mentioned directly.
I have not alleged anything. I was responding to
it. Yes. Let Mithika respond, then I'll come to you, Dr. Miguna. Why you give? Okay, you want to give Miguna.
I was responding to Mithika. I did not allege anything. So
but you mentioned that the Jubilee called the senators and MPs to State House and gave them direct instructions. He was one of them.
But anyway,
is that true?
Trevor, let me respond.
Yeah.
It is pitiful the way Senators Linturi and Wamatangi are trying to disseminate their propaganda on this panel. It's ineffective. For propaganda to be effective, you must base it on facts. And nobody is entitled to his set or her set of facts. They are trying to manufacture facts as they go along. Fact. 75% of Kenyan youth are unemployed, and Jubilee has done absolutely nothing to improve that condition. That's a fact. Fact. There is tribalism in Kenya. It's steaming up to the skies, and the Jubilee government have done everything to accentuate it. Fact. The Jubilee government perpetrated an electoral fraud on August 8th, and they were caught. And they committed illegalities that superseded the one that they did on August 8th when they conducted a coronation exercise on October 26th, until they can't even determine what the turnout was. Chebukati has become nothing but a chaperone for the Jubilee government. That's a fact. It's also a fact that there are many fora for discussing, debating, discussing on public affairs. This is one of them. They would not be here if the only forum is parliament. They are here because they recognize that this is a public forum. The media is a public forum. A town hall meeting is a public forum. A demonstration is a public forum. By the way, picketing and demonstrations are speech, constitutional speech, guaranteed and entrenched in the Constitution. So Article 1 of the Constitution says sovereignty belongs to the people. It doesn't have to be exercised in Parliament only. That is just where their elected representatives are exercising that sovereignty. Fact. Senator Linturi says that this is all about Raila Odinga. It isn't. Justice is not about Raila Odinga. Truth is not about Raila Odinga. Fairness is not about Raila Odinga. Transparency is not about Raila Odinga. You said that we are doing this to defend Baba in Nairobi. And you said NASA members of parliament were told to stay in Nairobi to do that. And I want to educate you for free, Senator Linturi. This democracy we are enjoying, the one you are enjoying in parliament, the one you are enjoying when you sit on this panel, we paid for by our blood and sweat. Some of us went to detention. Some of us went to exile. Some of us were tortured at Nyati House and Nyayo House. Raila Odinga went to detention for 8 years. I don't know what you are doing. The fact of the matter is that we are not going to allow people enjoying freedoms they never fought for to subvert it. Further, I can tell you that we are going to fight Jubilee in every forum constitutionally available. So whether it is boycott, whether it is demonstrations, whether it is courts of law, whether it is on this panel, wherever it is, we are going to do it, and we are going to do it fearlessly and consistently. To Senator Wamatangi, he's been quite diversionary, talking about Safaricom platform, blah, 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 talking about five-star general are not supposed to sit in the panel. I don't know where he gets that. Even in the US, which many of them think is the citadel of democracy, five-star generals debate in public whenever called upon to do so. And I'm not going to cede this ground.
Okay.
Now, if we are ineffective, as Dr. Otiende Amollo said, then we would not be discussing NRM. We would not be discussing boycotts. We would not be discussing NASA. It is because we are very effective.
Okay.
And we are going to continue to be effective. Lastly, Trevor, just allow me. It is quite unfortunate that people who cannot even steal an election competently, they have been caught every time. We've caught them twice. And we're going to catch them again. Can come here and try to lecture us on political strategy, on tactics, on how to execute on our mandate. I mean, these people are more than incompetent. They are actually so incompetent that I even wonder, how did they even manage to rig successfully in 2013?
Mithika.
Yeah, Trevor,
Yes.
I wish we were, you know, Amollo Otiende brings certain with the issues that can be discussed by reasonable men, reasonable people, things that you really would want to address. And I wish this is how we move forward with my friend. And I have a problem with Miguna, because Miguna may be suffering from selective amnesia. And I have heard Miguna speak here and tries to completely bring out the impression that he wants taken by the public by not even what I have seen. Because, for example, I personally saying that I was reporting on what the members from the NASA constituencies were saying in Parliament. That was reported. I was very clear. I did not say that, Mr. Miguna. And I cannot understand why you deliberately decided to put those ones into my mouth. Two, remember, when you say that you will not allow people to enjoy certain freedoms that they did not fight for, that's being too selfish.
I did not say
that's what you said.
No, I didn't.
That one, I would want them to play your clip. Remember, the Mau Mau fought for the independence of this country. You were not there. We were not there. But we enjoy that freedom. So you don't, you don't fight with a view to having to enjoy for the freedoms that you fight for, but you fight for the future of our country and the future generations to come. And we thank those that did it. I have a lot of respect for Raila Odinga personally. He's a personal friend. And if there is anybody that I have history with, when we are saying we were sitting not knowing what to do, in 1996, during the formations of the Mwangasa Trust and the Safina, when I was charged, Raila used to come to Maua courts to listen to my matter and assisted me. So it is not that we do not have history. When I was running as NDP candidate, I was one of the errand boys. So don't say that I do not. And even during his tenure as Prime Minister, the tarmac that goes to my house, I must give credit where it deserved. The titles that went to my constituency, when nobody else could have dared invite him in Meru, I did. So I have a lot to speak the good things that the Prime Minister did. So we have an history. But that is besides the point. When I come to this show, I come to this show as a voice of reason. I come to this show as an independent-minded senator or member that has been elected by the people of Meru. Okay. And I have every reason to think and give guidance on my opinion on how we must move the country. Okay. I don't sit here as a Jubilee mouthpiece. I don't hold them brief. Okay. And that must be understood. And why I said very clearly that it is only fair to discuss these matters in Parliament, because that is where we have the ability of coming up with a legislation, of coming up with consensus that can easily have the effects of law and that we can see can easily be binding. We won't be here on these issues or anywhere else to sensitize people or to educate people on what is happening or what we need to do as a country. But at the end of the day, if we have to succeed, we must always revert to the people, because that is the only institution or body that has been given by mandate to come up with any law. And finally, why I must commend Dr. Otiende. I am a person that also believes in the empowerment of independent institutions. And some of these institutions, and why the Constitution, thought the Parliament, because Parliament is supposed to be independent. We are supposed to go there and look at the matters that touch on our country, devoid completely of our political affiliations, and making decisions on for the best interest of this country, forgetting our political parties, though we are guided, although we have a political party act that binds us with our political parties. And it's only fair, it is only fair for this country or the members of Parliament to understand that role and times shed off that baggage that comes with association by way of political parties, so that we can be able to address our issue. Right. I will fight for the independence of Parliament. Yes. That I can tell you, I can't compromise. But that for us to succeed, we need and we require debaters that also will run away from this. You know, when Amollo saying that there is nothing that can easily likely come out from Parliament, there I will disagree with him, because even the tyranny or the dictatorship that may arise is because the people of Kenya thought it twice to have Jubilee have the majority of members of Parliament. What we can only seek to make our members do is not to abuse that ngunduro by the Kenyans to come into conspiracy with the people that are likely to defeat the interests of the public.
Okay, Senator Wamatangi.
Yes, please. Thank you. Thank you.
There's so many issues, you don't even know which one to respond to.
I mean, I must admit that I'm getting amused this morning. Especially, you know, I think Miguna, besides the many things he's saying, he has chosen to be very humorous this morning. You know, he's talking of, he's listed quite a number of facts. I'm sure you remember those fact, but he stopped short of some facts, especially on this fact of the amount of blood he lost. You know, I wanted him to state factually, you know, how many pints of blood he says he lost.
0.
And whether he was losing it nose bleeding in Canada, or he was, you know, he could have been nose bleeding in his bathroom in Canada and brought it here. So he lost blood, or maybe he went to donate blood in Kenyatta. And, you know, because I mean, you know, we must be factual, as you said, you know, about our histories, Miguna, because there is nowhere where there was bloodletting that you ever were. But and in listing of those facts, I think the most crucial fact that they all the time must remember to loudly remind Kenyans is that on the 8th of August 2017, they lost the general election, a fact that was upheld by the Supreme Court on a motion moved by them in the Supreme Court. Because the Supreme Court was very clear, very, very clear, that the results of that election were not what was disputed. Indeed, the finding of the Supreme Court in annulling that court was stated very clearly that the annulment is not on the basis of the outcome or the numbers. It was in the process. So, on the question of whether they lost the election, that they must state as a fact. Two, they also must state their facts very clearly, that when granted their wishes by the Supreme Court to go for a fresh election, they ran away from that election. Those are the facts. And if they can complete their fact file that way, then we could be listening to them. Let me just comment briefly on some of the things that were said by my friend there, Otiende Amollo, especially on this question of the laws, that's the election amendment laws coming into force by virtue of the fact that they were not assented to, but the fact that they had been submitted or forwarded to the president. And on many occasions in this forum, Otiende Amollo has admitted that he has been and he was one of those that sat in the team that drafted and wrote the Constitution.
Yes.
And then he knows very well that in the laws that they drafted in that Constitution, that if a law is submitted or forwarded to the president and he does not assent to it, and that is why I want to pick the issue with Otiende Amollo, my friend, that the president did not mislead the country. He said and stated a fact that he did not assent to those laws. But by virtue of the Constitution that he helped to draft and bring into fruition, when it is not assented to, after that duration of time, it becomes law. And so that is what the president said. He said, I did not assent to it. End of story. So there's a narration that the president misled the country is absolutely not true. Now, he also said that that we were called to State House yes. or wherever to go and be directed on whom to to give positions. Yeah. I mean, I thought actually you may want to quietly behind the scenes borrow a leaf. First ask where we were, because do you know that the biggest problem NASA has been facing, the reason why they could not even attend Parliament, what you saw, them saying that they're not coming to Parliament because they don't want to legitimize the process, is actually a smoke screen. It was a facade. The truth is that they could not come to the House because they could not agree on who is going to be their leaders or who are going to be the leaders in Parliament. They had a big fight between their constituent parties. Wiper says we want to have the leader of majority. Ford Kenya is saying our leader of majority is the one who is in the Senate. Those are the reasons why they could not come to Parliament. But what they would do, and he knows that absolutely it is a rule within the running of political parties. It is a requirement of Parliament that every party must submit its members in leadership, because they could not do that. Yeah. That's why they could not come to Parliament. And the fact that we were able to quickly agree as a party among ourselves that these are our leaders without any fiasco. I mean,
Senator, you're deviating. Were you summoned to State House? Are you admitting that you were called to State House?
Listen, Trevor.
Yes.
It is a matter of course that after an election, the party must retreat before or at the time they go to Parliament and agree on leadership. It is not a question of summoning. Okay. It is a question of following on what the natural course is. Okay. Now. So you admitted that you were there. And on this on this long story about boycott, I wish Otiende Amollo, with your good skills and training, why at least to bring your members above the threshold of good perception, of proper perception by public. I wish you would have taken a step to convince your members. Why don't you start, at least for believability, start from the slate of boycotting your salaries? In Parliament, you would have said from now on,
as you wave the red cards migrating to Airtel, wave your pay slips with the left-hand side and say, we are also condemning these payments. They come from taxes collected from these companies that we don't like, and so we are now not going to be accepting these salaries. Okay. These people are not only helping Jubilee, but they're also helping to pay us. Throw away the pay slips. Okay. But you see, you guys are playing precisely the one game that is most shameful. I mean, lying from the left, yeah, and pontificating on the right. Okay. Now let me just two very quick ones. Two very quick ones, because you had also Otiende Amollo talking about independence of institutions, yes, and how they have been ramaged and muzzled by Jubilee. And we all know for sure who the architects, who the pursuers of the dilapidating, yeah, of muzzling, of forceful evictions, yeah, of independent institutions are. It is NASA. They have done this to one of the most important independent institutions many times over, okay, at the crucial moments, and that is the IEBC. Every time when the election is round the corner, they have consistently, persistently ensured, okay, that they have used all manner, including extra legal, the way they have done, okay, many times, to force those institutions out of office. And so I want to finalize by saying this, yes, to my colleagues. We have heard a lot about this new style of being crybabies, of lamentations, of weeping, and saying that, oh, you did this, or you did that, oh, please. We are saying, gentlemen, the way to move the country forward is to each of us assess where we are. We have already been through an election. We went to the second election. They ran out of it. We understand. Sometimes when you find you face imminent defeat, you may choose to save face by diverting. They may have chosen that as a tactic. We are not interested in their tactics. Okay. What we need to do now is realize that Kenya is composed not only of us politicians, but everybody. And we need to move this country forward. So they need to get on board. Okay. I mean, put on their saddles, ride their horses, although their horses are limping politically, and we move the country forward. Okay. And the way to move the country forward is to avoid some of these things they are doing. I'll tell them lastly that no amount of tears, yeah, that they may cry here, no amount of lamentations can bring back what is gone. Okay. The elections were on the 26th. Okay. Kenyans are saying, now we want to exhale. We want to move forward. We as Jubilee, we are saying, it is indeed time to put the country together, to say our interest also can take a second place, okay, and move on.
All right, Dr.